I know, it's so satisfying. I'm out.
Good morning, everybody. If it's okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Is that all right? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, welcome. Welcome to the Capstone Invitational. We are very, very excited. This is a really exciting day for us. It's very exciting for the presenters. I think it's exciting for the panel. I hope it's exciting for the panel. And it should be exciting for all of you that are in the audience as well. This is a really cool thing where you get to see some of the great projects that have been done and some of the hard work that's gone into the last quarter of work from these students. So let me start. First off, let me introduce myself. My name's Jeremiah Harrison. In addition to some of the things I do in the academic department at large, I also teach communications, which means I've been working with these guys on these presentations for a little while, and so it's a lot of fun to see them get to do it now in a professional setting. So I'm very excited for that to happen today. almost as excited as they are to stand up and present to all of you. So let me also introduce, we have with us, and we're really excited for this as well, we have a couple of one large panel made up of 2 categories of individuals. So we have some industry professionals with us today, and we're very excited that they've taken the time to be here. So let me just go down the line and introduce them and let you know who's going to be with us. First off, we have Mr. Jeff Brown. Go ahead and wave to the audience. Yeah, give it up. So Jeff is with us. He is the Quality Assurance Executive from DealerTrack, company that we have a relationship with, and we're really excited. Thank you for being here today. Next up, we have Mr. Troy Campbell. Some enthusiasm. I like that. Troy is the Engineering Manager at RisePoint, and we're really excited. Thank you for being here with us. We have Mr. John Esser. John is the Senior Director, Data Center Operations and SaaS at Advanced MD. So thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. We also have Miss Holly Hammonds right here. And Holly is the Senior Recruiter at Dealer Socket. And she also brought along from Dealer Socket as well, Mr. Michael Hanling. Michael is the Software Engineering Manager. We're very excited to have both of you. Thank you guys for being here. We also have Miss Darcy Main with us. And Darcy is the Senior Analyst and Project Manager at Dell EMC. Thank you very much. These are all our professionals. Another round of applause collectively for them. Now, also with us, forming a secondary panel, if you will, is another group that we get very excited about as academics. These are our alumni panel. These are people that have gone through the rigors of Neumont and have now come back to pass judgment on their soon-to-be fellow alumni. So we're very excited. Let me introduce first Mr. Braden Call. Braden graduated in 2007, so he's been out in the wide world for some time. He's the Senior Product Manager at RisePoint, and for some reason he told me to mention that he really likes puppies. So, there you go, Mr. Call. Okay, next up we have Mr. Darren Flynn. Darren graduated in 2006. He's the CEO and Senior Partner at NextThink Technology, and he wanted me to tell you that he does not. He, in fact, hates puppies. Don't know why that's important, but there you go. Next up, we have Jason Porter. Jason also graduated in 2006 and is the Principal Software Engineer for Red Hat, and also does not like puppies. And then last but not least, certainly, is Brian Wilson. He graduated in 2012. Brian? And Brian is the performance engineer for Cricket, is the company he works for, and also, I think, does not like puppies, is the consensus we reached. It turned into just a referendum on if we like puppies or not. I don't know. It was kind of strange. Before we jump into this, you guys, I have a minute. I was told I could freelance and say about what I want, which is a dangerous game. But it's really exciting for me to explain Capstone. Now, most of you in here, I believe, are either students, alumni, or partners that we have worked with, and you know what Capstone is at Neumont College of Computer Science. But some of you, perhaps, are not familiar. So let me just go over it for a minute. The Capstone quarter at Neumont is essentially an encapsulation of all of the skills that you should have, or we hope to have taught, by the time a student gets to that stage in their learning. To a certain extent, it really mirrors that of a master's thesis project in many ways. And so students are given the opportunity to choose whatever they would like to work on. So by the time they get to this stage in their academic career, whatever passion they have, whatever has stood out to them, whether it be learning a new skill, whether it be honing a skill that they've already learned, whether it be building a product, something that has come to them from a client, which one of our presenters actually built theirs for a client, whether it's something like that, or if it's just, I'm going to try some theories, I've never done anything like this, and we're just going to, see what happens when we try a few things. And the main thing here is that the skills that are being presented, it's not just from a technical nature, but also problem-solving skills, because during this time, they work mostly independently. They do have faculty with them to coach them and help them, but it is largely driven by them. And to that point, that's why these 5 presenters today deserve all of the accolades and all of the praise that they're going to get, is because they did all of this by themselves. It was self-driven, it was self-done, and they led it mostly themselves. They asked the right questions and then went and found those answers. And we're very proud at the end of each Capstone quarter to watch the work that was done. So if you're comfortable with it, let's give another round of applause to these fine presenters today. So with no further ado, let's get to it. I know you guys came to see these guys perform. So first up is going to be Mr. Benjamin Goff, and his project is entitled Ivory.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm just going to get set up really quick here. Cool, awesome. So, as was mentioned, my name is Benjamin Goff. I'm a member of the computer science degree here at Neumont College of Computer Science. And before I get started, I was actually wondering if the audience could help me out with something really quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a small section of music on the piano, and I want you to do is listen as closely as possible, all right? Cool. So, by raise of hands, how many people here recognize the song that I just played? All right, okay, cool. Out of those people, how many of you, if I were to ask you to come down here, would you be able to play on the piano the song that I just played? All right, so obviously what I'm asking is basically an impossible task. There's a very small number of people that can listen to a section of music and then play it perfectly without any practice right from the get-go. That being said, as I was talking to some people, I found out that there's a large number of people that didn't learn how to play the piano when they were younger, and they don't necessarily want to learn music theory completely from the ground up, but they would still love to learn a few of their favorite songs that they can share with friends or family or just for their own personal use. That is the purpose of my project, Ivory. Ivory is a casual piano tutorial program with the focus on teaching people how to play specific songs that they choose at their own pace, rather than having someone have to sign up for piano lessons per se and spend the money and the time trying to in their busy lives to get that to work. You don't need to know any sheet music reading or anything like that, and it delivers a fun interactive way to pick up on some skills that you've learned and to practice them however you want. So some of the technologies that I use, this is a WPF application written in C# in the .NET framework, but the majority of my application was built upon the MIDI file format. What that is MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, which sounds really technical, but all it really means is it transfers information about music without actually transmuting the sound itself. What that does is a couple of things. First off, it's really lightweight, so it's easy to transfer with low downtime and stuff like that. And additionally, it also is exact, which means I can get exact pitches, exact notes, things like that without having to try and extrapolate that out of sound. So in order to help me with this, I used two helping libraries for C#. The first was NAudio. This was a helpful thing for me because what it does is it reads in a MIDI file and kind of breaks it into a little more usable blocks than just one giant string of data. And from there, I'm able to pick out the parts that I need in order to build the interface that I'll show you in a bit. The other library that I used was MIDI.NET. This is a really low-level library. All it does is it alerts my system whenever I play a note on my actual piano. So other than that, that's basically what my project is, and so let's go ahead and jump into it. So hopefully the sound works. So when you launch into Ivory, this is the screen that you're brought to. Oh, and the screen left. Hold on just a moment. Sound is working. There we go. All right, cool. So this is the main screen of Ivory, and there's a couple of things here. So at the top right, this is a drop-down. This is all of your currently connected devices. So right now I have my Casio piano. If you had any virtual devices on your actual PC, that would work too. And it's dynamically loaded when you start the program. Over here on the right, these are dynamically loaded songs from a particular file on your computer. It's kind of like a quick access feature. So if there's a few songs that you've been practicing for a while, you can load them into this directory and they'll auto-load whenever you bring up the application for you right here. That being said, if you don't want to load things from there, there's this open song option here. And basically that just brings up a helpful file dialog if you ever want to just search for any file on your computer to run. So, and then there's also you can exit here and play any song, but for now, I'm just going to show off Piano Man as a demo. Actually, really quick, I need to pick the proper device. So, that would have been bad. So when you click on a song, this is the screen that you're brought to. This is basically where I spent 85% of my time working on my Capstone. So, you'll notice that there's some features on the side. There's some scroller on the top, and if we play some notes here, they light up on the bottom in real time. So I'll go through these features kind of one at a time. So for now, let's just go ahead and play the song. I gotta turn that up a little bit. So when you play a song, the notes kind of come down Guitar Hero style. This is all dynamically loaded from the file itself and happens in real time. And this kind of gives you a visual representation of what notes is being expected to play. However, if I've never once learned how to play the song Piano Man, this is incredibly fast and not very helpful for me. So what you can do is let's go ahead and pause and we can reset to the beginning, and let's go ahead and slow that down. So you can slow down the song in 0.125 intervals and go to whatever speed that you want to start practicing. So let's go and have it at 0.5 speed, and let's click play, and we'll notice that the notes are now longer. And that might be a little bit more manageable for you. So as these notes come down like this, you'll also notice that it's hard to see on this projector, but there's actually measured lines and measured numbers that show up on the left, so you can kind of keep track of where you are. Even still, though, I might want to practice note by note without really giving heed to the tempo of the song. That's what this practice option is. So if I go ahead and click the practice option, well, we're kind of paused here at this moment in time. And what this means is it's actually waiting for me to hit the proper notes in order to advance the song. So it won't continue until I hit C, E, G, and a C. And from there, it'll continue and then stop at the next available note as far as the length is of each note. So from there, I can then click like a G here and a C, and it will advance just like that. So that's a cool feature there. That being said, so say, let's go ahead and turn that off. So we're here at measure 14. Let's say I've been practicing this for a while now, and I get to here, and I don't want to play the whole song again, but I want to practice this particular section. What you can do is you can go ahead and click on a particular note, and this bookmarks it. And so instead of resetting here, we can click reset to bookmark, and what this does is now at any point in time when we click play, we'll go back to measure 14 instead of measure 1. So we can practice particular sections of the song instead of the whole thing. We can even reset completely back to the beginning and start from there. Per se, so say we were practicing, the intro again, and then we realized, oh, I didn't quite have that part down. We can go ahead and reset to our bookmark still, and it will still bring us to measure 14. We could even say reset to the bookmark, bring it all the way up to 1 times speed, say that we've practiced it for a while, and now we can play back in measure 14, and it'll play at the proper speed. So one other thing you'll notice is I have this accuracy thing over here. I'll try my best to demonstrate that. Okay, let's see if I can get a note. So you can kind of see that the accuracy, obviously I've been playing a lot of notes and I'm really bad right now. So the accuracy is 0.96, but it does update in real time regardless of how many times you play, and that has to do with the number of notes. So let's go ahead and pause that. And now if we were to go back to the main menu, we'll see that the accuracy has changed. And this is based off of a few things. This is actually about the number of songs that you've played, as well as how you've done on each one of those songs and the number of notes that you've played. So it did go up a little bit. That's because I've practiced this a lot of times, and I've actually gotten 0% like a whole bunch of times. So that's kind of how that works. With that, I would like to open up questions for the panelists and say thank you to everyone. So, thank you.
Is this working? Okay. So, first question is, what was the most challenging aspect of developing this?
So one of the biggest problems that I ran into is I wrote this in WPF, which was really, really nice because I find that the designing process of making a GUI with WPF to be really, really nice. The problem that I ran into is it's not really tailored for real-time efficiency in that sense. And so what happened was when I first wrote it, I had a solution that technically worked, but it would run really, really poorly. And if you're doing a music program, you really don't want lag because that kind of ruins the experience. So what I had to do is I had to kind of refactor 5 or 6 times in order to make a solution that not only worked, but efficiently managed my resources. And that was something that I had never really worked for before because I'd never made this large scale of a project. So it was really fun working with multiple threads and asynchronous tasks and stuff like that in order to get this accomplished. I actually have, so this song was kind of my testing song. This isn't a real song I believe anyone could play. I would hope not because it's really crazy. And it was kind of my like threshold tester to see what could be handled. So if we go and play here, like there's a lot of notes. So yeah, obviously no one can play this, but this was kind of my way to test to make sure that everything would run efficiently. So I'll go ahead and stop. All right, so.
My other question was just, and it is kind of separate from the project, but does this method of teaching actually work? Do people actually, can they learn to play songs?
I mean, this was how I actually learned to play the piano, a similar way to this. I obviously didn't have...
You're not a trained pianist.
And I taught myself to play the piano, so how I learned was I had a bunch of songs that I really, really liked, and I ended up taking piano lessons for like 2 months after I had practiced for 2 years, and I hated it. I couldn't stand it. So, but yeah, this is how I learned was picking a song that I recognized and then matching up the notes to the keys on the piano, and from there, that's how I actually learned to sight read. So
very good.
Cool. Thank you.
And so if I wanted any song in the world and I tried to find it like in the open song category, would it then translate and drop those notes appropriately?
Yes. So the MIDI file format is like a highly standardized format of music. Encryption, that's not the right word, but basically it's like there's songs basically that can be transferred in that, and yes. So what it does is MIDI songs can also have like percussion and things like that in it, and this strips that all away and just leaves you with the notes. And any song like that can be loaded into this and run perfectly.
Very
Whether
cool.
or not it's like a lot of notes is,
Yeah, that
up to you. So.
I have a question. What did you not get to? And how did you prioritize what you did get?
Okay, so there was actually a lot that I wanted to do with this. As I was going into Capstone, I knew I wanted to make a piano tutorial application because that's kind of been my big idea since I started Neumont. What I wanted is actually to have some sort of online community feature where you could not only upload a song, but you could also upload like tips and tricks to help you practice a song. So like if there's a particular difficult part, they could like add videos or text to help with fingerings and stuff like that for the piano. So I wanted to do that because I figured it would give like a sense of community, and maybe you could share your accuracies and stuff on certain songs, and maybe have a streamlined way of finding music to learn. But the interactive portion that I showed just ate all of my time, and so that's what I felt was most important and put all of my focus to. So I would love to add some sort of online connectivity feature in order to kind of bring a community together with Ivory.
There we go. Could we see opening up a new MIDI file that you don't already have in your current playlist?
Sure. I don't know if I have a song other than these, but I can open up where these files are located with the open song feature. Is that okay?
Follow up to that. Say I end up having, I don't know, 200 songs here. Can I clear that drop-down list?
Say that one
so
more.
the drop-down list that we've got over here on the right side of the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I have a lot of songs that I've accumulated over the months or years or whatever, can I clear that out, or can I search for songs?
Currently, no. It'll scroll and you can search through it like manually, but right now I did not implement like a querying feature or something to locate specific songs. So let me go ahead and show opening a song. Hopefully I can find where it's located. It should be, oh, I know where it is. It's on. All right, so yeah, so you hear it limits it to MIDI files and say I wanted to open up Chopsticks. It would open it up, and then from here you would see Chopsticks play. So, and I will turn that off very quickly so you don't listen to that. So, yeah.
Well, great job. I thought it was really good. I mean, being a musician myself, I can appreciate software like this. I had a couple questions. I was really interested to know what your personal inspiration and your personal story was, and I think you kind of got into that. Was that what kind of kept you going and really building this?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like if I wasn't a musician or hadn't also gone through the self-teaching process that I did, I wouldn't have been able to complete as much as this, because I would have gotten really upset over all the different refactorings I had to do and things like that. So that definitely kept me motivated, because I really wanted, at the very least, to have something that I could show other people, hey, if you want to learn the piano, you can use this. So that helped me get through all the bumps and obstacles and allowed me to deliver a finished project, even though it was very difficult for me to do so.
And then, have you had a chance for other users to use this, like in Neumont College or other? Is it out there online, and are you getting feedback?
Not currently. I have shown it off, like to my roommates and stuff like that. One of the biggest challenges is you have to have some sort of electronic keyboard to connect to, and Neumont doesn't have that, so I would have had to bring it in, which I mean I could have done, but no, I haven't currently released it online or anything like that to that sort yet, but I would love to at some point once I've narrowed down some of the finer aspects of it. So.
And then my last question was like, when you go into the training mode or your training screen, do you have plans to maybe make different views? Because like right now, it feels very much like Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
But do you have like maybe for those who do read notes, do you have a plan to maybe enhance the graphical interface while they're playing real time?
Yes. So the way I've written this is it's very modular. So I have a lot of like real estate here to add more buttons and stuff, and I would love to have some sort of maybe like switch view option to where if you do read notes, this will swap to say like a sheet music view that's scrolling left or right, and then playing the notes will have the note, like quarter note or something, show up on the staff as it's going. I think that would be a really cool option. That would be a big thing to do and require a lot of change, but I think that would be helpful for different people that learn different ways.
So starting off, this is really cool. I was curious. You're able to connect your piano to your computer via USB. What other device connection types do you support, such as Bluetooth, Wi-Fi?
So any way that you can transfer MIDI data. So there's a few like FTP ways and stuff like that, and Bluetooth connection stuff. Those all work. It detects every connected MIDI device, including virtual ones. So if you had like a virtual emulator piano on your computer, that reads into this as well. So you can practice that way.
And I'm not sure if it matters too much or not with the accuracy, but what if there's delay in the audio or video compared to the inputs? Do you have some sort of syncing option that allows you to delay the input or speed up the input?
I don't, but that would actually be a very good idea, because I understand that not everything is real time and it's important too. So that's a good idea. So thank you very, very much for that input, actually. So.
And are you trying to head to more of an open source project with this, a paid program, or what direction are you trying to head from here?
I think open source would be the better option for this, just because it's the kind of thing that even though I have all the ideas for how I would like it to go, there's so many different ways that you could add features to something like this, as well as the purpose of this is to have an easy access for people that don't have the time or the money to do piano lessons. So rather than having it as a paid subscription or something, I think it would be better for it to just be something that you can download and maybe even add little modules yourself if you had a cool idea for something. Excuse me.
And last question, how do I know which fingers I need to press on the keyboard? Some of us aren't well coordinated like that.
So you're saying like which notes to play?
Yeah.
Oh, like which of the fingerings? That was something that, like, different songs can be played. Like the same song can be played with different fingerings, and I could have like one of the features I wanted to in the future that I didn't get to because of the span of this project was suggested fingerings, based on how the notes are currently laid out and future notes are. But I didn't get to that, so right now it would just be your best guess, honestly, which I know isn't the best solution, but that would be something that I would want to implement in the future for that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thanks again, Ben. That was fantastic. So, again, back to my point, you can tell that this is something that was Ben's passion. I don't know anybody on the faculty that plays the piano or anyone that would have suggested this, but this was something that Ben brought to the table himself. It was his passion. So, also wanted to point out, those of you that are in the audience, if you find yourself saying, oh man, I wish they would answer my questions, hang on to those questions. We will have a little bit of time. When we are done with all 5 presentations, the panel's going to huddle, and they're going to select who they deem as the winner today, as the best presentation or the best project. And so during that time, there will be a little bit of time for you to ask and have questions answered. So if you have those burning questions, hang on to them, text them to yourself, take notes, and we'll revisit those and you can ask some questions. So, having said that, welcome now to the stage Justin Furtado. He's going to take you through his project, which is entitled the 3D Mesh Generation Tool.
There we go. I was sure I hit start. All right, greetings everyone. I'm Justin Furtado. I'm a student of the Bachelor of Science in Software and Game Development degree program here at Neumont, and my project for Capstone was a 3D mesh generation tool. So I'm going to talk today about the problem I was trying to solve with my Capstone, solution I came up with to that problem, technologies I used, difficulties I encountered, what I'm most proud of. I'm going to demonstrate my editor. I'm going to demonstrate how the output of my editor can be used, and I want to talk about some things I would like to do that I did not get to in my project. So, the problem I was trying to solve with my Capstone is when it's twofold. So, an artist for a video game, if they wanted to have a forest, what they would currently do now is make a couple of tree models and place them randomly so that the same tree model isn't next to another one of the same tree model. They do that because if it takes an artist 2 hours to make a high quality tree model, then and they needed 1,000 trees in their forest, it would take that artist 2,000 hours to make that forest, which is very unreasonable. So they can't do it that way. But also, gamers will be walking through that forest and notice some art assets reused, and it could break immersion for some players. So here's an example of a forest that I made myself that has every tree in it exactly the same. It's not the most visually enticing to look at. I have another example of a star field where every star is exactly the same. Again, it could use some variety. Finally, as another example of what I'm trying to solve, a grid of laptops where every laptop is exactly the same. So my solution to these situations is to make a tool that artists and developers can use to vary any 3D model. So it doesn't have to be a tree, it could be a star or a laptop. The goal of it is twofold: to add variety to games and to save artists and developers time. So my project was split into 2 parts. The larger part of my Capstone was it took about 7/8 of my time, and that is the editor that allows you to specify the allowed variations for a 3D model. So I wrote that in C++ using the Windows API and DirectX. I had to write all the rendering functionality myself. It got pretty low level. And then the second part of my project, this is the smaller part, is just the demo of using that in Unity. I wrote a Unity script that reads my custom binary file so that you can use that in any Unity game to get real-time different 3D models. I ran into several difficulties during the course of this project. The first of which was creating vertex groups. So it's a collection of points in my model, and that to overcome required me to do lots of math involving translating a two-dimensional rectangle into a three-dimensional shape so that I can do intersection math on that to determine which points are inside of your shape. That was a very difficult, I would consider that the biggest obstacle. Also, using the Windows API, I had some issues with memory leaks because my application had stuff outside, resources that exist outside of my application to reference DirectX and all that stuff, and I had to manually remember to release those, which I was doing, but that callback, it turns out, was only getting called when you close the main window, not when you close my custom console. Also, there was some reference material issues. I found that like 95% of DirectX tutorials I found were relying on deprecated methods. And of course, when you have a capstone that relies this much on linear algebra, you're going to make a math error somewhere. But don't worry, I got those all corrected. I'm most proud of overcoming those difficulties, the fact that my capstone is efficient and can load and vary a model with over 300,000 points in it. That is way more points than you would ever use in an actual model for a game. I came up with 6 different variation types, and I made my command processor from scratch. Of course, of all of these things, I'm most proud of the output. So I'm going to start by demonstrating my editor. When you open up my capstone, it starts with a sphere. That's just my default model to work with. The lack of UI comes solely as a time constraint. I do desire to add like a fully fledged, user-friendly UI at a later point in time. I just had to spend the entire 10 weeks getting the math down. So I'm going to start by creating a vertex group. You'll see with this rectangle, it's doing all that fancy math behind the scenes. When I release, it's going to select the points under that rectangle, and that'll work regardless of where the camera is, what angle you're at, and where you place the rectangle. The red part of the model is the part of the model we're working with. I'm going to tell it to move those points up. As you can see, I've done that. I'm going to set that as the high state, which is the fancy way of saying where you're going to. So pretty much I can set it back to the low state and the high state, and it's saying go between here and here to my capstone. When I hit the vary key on the keyboard, you can see it picks randomly between those. But it would be pretty boring if we could only have one vertex group. So we can do an arbitrary number of vertex groups. I'm going to tell it to go down instead of up because that looks better. So we're going between here and here. I can vary that one, or I can vary both. And that's how it looks on a single model, but I want to generate tons of models. So to do that, I'm going to enter a command into my console that's going to tell it to generate 2,500 varied shapes based on the criteria I just specified and put them in a grid. And if I spelled it right, which I did, you can see that I have generated 2,500 variants of the model almost instantaneously, and they're all different using only the criteria I specified. This will work on any model you can load. From here I could export them to OBJ files for use in any game engine or to my custom binary format so that you can vary them in real time in Unity. But that would take more time than I want to dedicate to the presentation. So I'm going to demonstrate a pre-made output. So this is, first things first, where it says Dargon, that's not a typo, that's the name of the model. So when I go into one of the scenes in my demo, you'll see lots of models, and these are all generated at startup using my capstone. I have 3 buttons, one to return to the title screen, which we're not going to use yet, and 2 other ones. The one on the bottom left, called Boringify, pretty much means take away my capstone. It's going to go through 10 models per frame and replace the instance of the model with the base mesh. So you can see what this flock of dragons would look like if every single one of them were exactly the same. It's pretty boring, doesn't seem as menacing as we'd like. Now, when I hit the regenerate button, that pretty much says use my capstone. So it's going to go through 10 models per frame and replace them all with models generated at real time using the criteria I specified. As you can see, this dragon has longer tail spikes than this other dragon. They're different colors, they're tilted differently, have varying ear lengths, etc. The next scene I want to demo is the forest scene. You'll recognize it from the PowerPoint. This is it generating them all at startup as I told it to. I'm going to show you what it would look like if everything was the same and show you how instantaneously we can get every star and every tree looking different based only on criteria we specified. It's never going to assume some variation you don't want. My personal favorite of these demonstrations is the laptop scene. It looks very monotonous with all of the same model everywhere. And when I hit regenerate, you'll see, based on the criteria I specified, which were, in this case, open and close the lid, so apply a rotation here, and change the color and the scale non-uniformly. And we can see we get a bunch of different technological devices as quickly as we desire. So, finally, I would like to talk about my future plans for this. So, I was limited by time. I would totally love to go further with this. I think this is a great start towards something that can be amazing. To get it to that amazing point, the things I really want to get in there are texture support as far as varying UVs and textures go for the models. So you can not only change the shape, but vary how the texture on it looks. Support for animated models, because right now, sadly, it currently only works on your static geometry, your trees, your ground, etc. So that way I could get it on like a zombie or something. I want to add more than just my 6 variation types that I didn't have the time to demo. I want to add that UI so it's really user-friendly, because right now it's powerful and functional, but it could look way better. I want to add support for loading in more file types and exporting to more file types. I want to do some polish and optimization, and then I want to see what it can do actually in games. So, on that note, does the panel have any questions?
How did you determine like your grid patterns and model placement?
When I was placing 2,500 of the spheres in a grid, that was based on parameters to the command I specified. I told them when you step along the x-axis, move 5 like this, or on the z-axis, move 5 like this. So I could have made it vertical or diagonal or in any varying distance so that you can...
So it was another variation.
In a way.
Have you thought about using like GIS data for like placing models? It's like if you're creating a scene, right, you'd have GIS data, says a force goes here, and you know what I'm saying?
Currently, what I have now on the Unity side is a script that I wrote that I plan to give with the application that it encapsulates all the functionality well, so all you need to do is call that script.makeInstance, and you give the script via click and drag through the editor, text fields and all that, the file name, material you want to use, all that. And so all you need to do is get a reference to the script and call make instance to get a new model, and then you do what you want with it from there. You can put it however you want. So on the forest scene, I was using a different algorithm myself that placed them randomly on that, and the star field places it randomly in a 3-dimensional instead of a grid. So in Unity, when you're using the output in an actual game, you could place them however you want, do whatever you want with these models, add components to make them burnable and lit on fire, whatever you like.
Thank you.
So, when you did that dragon scene, I actually felt like I was in a new world. I felt like I was there. So, kudos to you on that. But I was kind of curious, do you have plans to do virtual reality?
So this right now just varies 3D models. So where you put those 3D models is up to you. If you had a virtual reality game set up, you could put my 3D models in there. It's just a Unity script that you could use in your Unity virtual reality projects.
And then you said that, I didn't get that one part. Did you say you actually created your own processor to do this, or like your own back-end engine?
My own engine? Yes. So the editor you saw, I can pop that up again. This right here is completely from the ground up. I had to go through the Windows API, say, hey Windows, I want a window, give me a close button. When they click it, call this callback function, blah, blah, blah. I wrote all the rendering myself in DirectX, so it was like writing a game engine so that I could get this in there, I wrote my own HLSL shaders. I did all the model loading from scratch. I didn't use any libraries to load the files. I manually parsed that data. I manually output that data. Lots of low-level work. I even had to ask Windows to give me this console window when I hit enter and write my own command processor for my console working directly with the character arrays in C++ because I like to go low-level like that.
Cool. My last question was, what was your favorite part out of this whole Capstone project? What was your favorite part?
My favorite part had to be the first time I got models varying in real time. When I was clicking in my Unity project and I just called make instance, and then I'm like, whoa, it's different. Let me put that in a for loop. Oh, now I have 10,000 different ones. Oh, this and that. And then I just got to toy with it and have lots of fun. There were a lot of parts I had to make, and at the very end, they all came together. So until then, until the end of the project, it wasn't super usable. And when I finally got those last pieces, it was the most rewarding to me.
Just a quick question. First of all, are there technologies that do this already? And if so, why would I use your application over something else?
So there are 3D modeling tools, but those are all intended for you to model a single shape. The goal of this is not to compete with the 3D modeling software whatsoever. The goal is for you to use the same 3D modeling software you like, get your model, pop it in here so that you make several different ones instead of starting from scratch and manually moving the vertices for each of those 2,500 spheres by yourself. So this is intended to be a time-saving extra tool, not a competitor to stuff that exists. I am not aware of any tool that exists to do what I am doing with this tool. Although some games do implement procedural generation, that's all stuck in that game. They write their algorithm to vary their shape in their game, they use that in their game, and then when they want to make a different game, their code it's tied to that game. This is an external thing that you can use in any Unity project.
All right, thank you, Justin. Wonderful job. Very good job. Sorry to cut you off. I know there were probably more questions. I invite you guys to stick around after. For time constraints, we'll probably restrict questions a little bit and maybe stick to 2 or 3 tops for the whole panel. So thank you guys. All right. Next up, we've got Ryan. He's going to join us. He's going to talk about Homestead, his project.
Testing. Okay, cool. Give me 1 second while I set up. Okay. Oh, here, you know what, I'll just... Thank you very much. I took it with me. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Ryan Stead. And today I will be very excited to show you guys Homestead, the virtual reality interior designer. So, if you've ever watched a sort of home improvement show, you probably have not been able to get through it without seeing a designer create some sort of mock-up of what the area or room will look like before it's actually been created. Now, this is great for clients because people want to see what things are going to look like before they invest all their money in it. So there are some current solutions out there already that do this sort of thing, where you're able to see the items before you pay for it, but I wanted to put my own little spin on it and make it a little prettier. So there are some big box furniture stores that already have some of these solutions. However, in my opinion, it does what it needs to do. You can take their furniture and you can load it in and see where the dimensions work, but it's not very pretty, I think, and I thought I could do a little better. So that is what Homestead is all about. So let me talk about how it's built. So the technologies I used, I'm proud that there were an expansive amount of them. So in a few minutes you'll see the actual application itself and all of the models I've created myself in Blender. So a couple things. There is a launcher that's built in C# and WPF. Then the launcher talks to a backend API hosted on Linux in Azure on .NET Core. And then there's a little SQLite database to store user data and things like that. The two largest technologies, however, were Unreal and C++. Now, I haven't worked in C++ in about a year and a half since my third quarter, so it was quite a shock to come back to it and have to essentially relearn everything, especially because Unreal is based off of it. Speaking of Unreal, I originally came in all gung-ho thinking, hey, I'm going to code everything in C++ and it's going to be great. Now, I realized that that was an impossible challenge for me because of my shortcomings with the experience of the language. But instead, Unreal has a great higher level language that they call blueprints, which is essentially a much easier way to code in C++, but it's a more visual representation. So if you look at the top left, you can see that there's a white line that starts snaking around through the image, and you can see that each of these blocks essentially represent a method that go and call a C++ function. So you can see that if you follow it, you can just see exactly how things are called, and then you can go all the way through and see that a program is slowly being built here. However, blueprints don't have total power. There are some times when you need to actually create your own functionality and then throw it into blueprints. So this is a great example of I needed to load in some models into Unreal, and there was no blueprint node to do that for me, so I had to write it myself in C++. So there were some difficulties I had working on Homestead. For example, originally when you pulled up the catalog for all the furniture, I wanted you to have a 3D representation of each model rotating so you can see exactly what you're going to pick before you place it down. Now this did work, however it tanked the FPS and it was really inefficient, and so to save the user experience I decided to just take that out and just go with a simple icon in order to see what you're going to place down. Now another cool thing I enjoyed was setting up SFTP. All the files can be uploaded to the Homestead community, and they are actually stored on a separate file server that the then SQLite database has a link to download separately. Saving loading rooms was laborious, but it worked out in the end. Unreal has a specific format that that it saves to when you want to save all the items in a room, and then I needed to make sure that that would work when I threw it up to my database and put it on my file server and then brought it back down so you could load back into it. So lucky to say all of these do work, but there were some difficult challenges in doing so. So let me actually show you the application. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start the launcher. Now, this is what you see before you're brought into any 3D portion. And so give me 1 second so I can log in to the community. Okay, so as you can see, it talks to my SQLite database and says, hello, it authenticates me. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to launch into a empty template room. And so we're going to call this something like Capstone presentation. And so here we are. Actually, I have to switch this. Testing? Okay, cool. So here we are in an empty room. It's very spacious. And so we can see we have our little selector guy here. And this shows us essentially what we're able to select in the room. Everything here is editable. So for instance, if I wanted to change the color of the floor, I have the ability to select it. I have a little selector icon. And now it will bring up a material selector menu. And so this is built for VR, but it was easier to show it in this format for the presentation. So this menu will follow you around, and I want to change the floor material here from this wood planks to this, let's go with the darker wood texture here. So after I have chosen this, oh, okay, I see. I am changing the wall currently. Apologies. And what I'm going to do is I have a nice rustic area instead, and I'm going to add some furniture to match. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in this couch, and you can see there is some collision here, so I can't place it inside other objects. I have the ability to rotate them, and so I'm going to place it right here. And now So I want to see what it's going to look at a different time of day. So I have the ability to change the time of day. And so I can see the sunlight coming and streaming in here, and it looks a little nicer now. So another thing I might want to change is I want to add some actual lighting here. So I'll go to my lighting category, and I will add in a lamp. So I'm going to go in here, and as you can see, light is dynamic, and it's added some actual lighting to the scene. So what's interesting now is I am a minimalist, and this empty room is exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and save, and then I'm going to exit. So if I go to my local rooms now, you will see that there is now a new button here called Caps Presentation, and that is the level that I just created. And if I were to click on this, I have the ability to upload it. However, I'm not going to upload it to the community because I already have a really nice level room that I can show you guys here. And so this is the one that I've created, and this will show off the capabilities of the actual project itself. So we will load into the room, and it takes just a second. And so here we are in this nice room, and it's tastefully decorated in my opinion. We've got, some nice couches, and of course we can change the time of day like we were able to before. And so you can see that we've got a nice little porthole window. And so yeah, this is essentially exactly what Homestead can do. You're able to download these and see recent updates on the launcher. And so you can essentially upload your creation and let others see it. Are there any questions?
I got a question. When you get your furniture, I always wonder if it will fit through the door.
Yeah.
Any plans to maybe fit that in?
Okay, so there was a lot I actually wanted to add to this project. For instance, one of my goals was to get a floor planner in here. So on the launcher, you'd be able to draw your own floor plan, and then you'd be launched into your own room in order to place the furniture in your own environment. And so that was a stretch goal that I would love to have, and that's definitely something I want to work on in the future. Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Have you considered whether this would also be useful as a landscape design tool?
I hadn't actually thought of that because currently the format, it will accept any model. Like what you can do currently, this is designed for a big company like IKEA. They have a huge model, they have a huge library of 3D models already available to them, and they can throw it directly into my engine, and it will populate that catalog of furniture with their furniture. So essentially what you could do is you could throw in and import 3D models that have related to landscaping and stuff in order to do that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Not only in the door, but up and down the stairs, right? That is, you get a couch halfway up a flight of stairs and all of a sudden realize it's not going to work. Our next presenter is going to come to the stage now and get set up. This is Sophie. She's going to present something. This one was really exciting for me. I really enjoyed working with this because she actually was working with a client on the outside that was asking for something. I'll let her give the details of that, of course, but really kind of a unique scenario here. So this is Sophie Wargo, and she's going to present now.
Hello. Hi, my name is Sophie Wargo, and I'm in the web development degree. Today I'm going to introduce you to Angela's Bakery, an e-commerce website built for and named after a client of mine. So what sets this e-commerce bakery apart from others is that it allows users to actually create their own 3D cake so they can customize it and then order it so they'll get exactly what they want. So if you look here, this person did not use my app because there is a typo, and I'm sure we've all been in that situation where we've ordered a cake for a loved one and then we give it to them and they break up with us because it has a typo. So let's jump into my technologies. Just briefly, I am using the MERN stack, which is MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. I'm also using Three.js for the 3D modeling, the Stripe API for payments, and Passport.js with Google OAuth. So now, so this is the homepage of my website. Like I said, it is an e-commerce website, so there is a lot of basic functionality that I'm probably not going to show, but you can edit account details. There are generic products you can purchase, and there's also an admin panel, which I will show later. So we're just going to hit login with Google, and that throws us through the OAuth flow. And since I'm already logged into my Google account, it just does it instantly. So now we can go to the custom order page. And you may be thinking that this part of my project was a piece of cake, but it was actually the most difficult part of my project. There was a lot of math involved that I had only ever used in classes before, so it was really interesting to actually use it in a real application. So we're just going to build a quick cake. So we can change the tiers, we can change the color of each individual tier. So if we want a full pink cake, we can do that, or we can have one blue, one pink. There is shape options, but I like the circle, so we'll leave it at that. And we can change the width and height of each tier. So we'll make it a little bit smaller. And there we go. And then also decorations are available. So right now it has beads on the top and roses on the bottom. So if we wanted to put cones on top, we could do that. We could add a topper, so a rose topper, and we'll make it dark blue. And we can also add items to the side. So stars are available and beads and roses, but we'll keep beads. And then over here, you can see that the price has been decided based on the number of tiers, as well as the width and the height of each individual tier. And then we can also change flavors, and this is all non-visual, so it's inside the cake, so I didn't really need to display that. So we'll just pick some random stuff. And then text. So this time, if we want, we can actually choose to have a typo, so we can put that. You're sweet. But this time it's our choice. So then we can go ahead and add that to our cart. Okay. And you can see that it actually takes the image of the cake and puts it over here, so we can see that we ordered that. There's also the option for a note, and this is more for generic products. So if you have some cupcakes in your cart and you wanted to make sure that it has rainbow sprinkles or something, you could put that in there. But for now, we'll just put my note just to demonstrate. We'll go to checkout. And then it asks for our shipping and billing information, and this is all validated through regex. So if we were to change it to something incorrect, it would tell us. So we'll go next. And here is the review page, and there's that note we added. If it looks good, we'll go ahead and check out. And this is just using the Stripe API's test credit card number. And we'll hit pay. And then we're going to be thrown on over to the confirmation page, which is going to tell us that our order is complete and we should check our email. So if we go to our email, if we want to, usually it's more instant than this. There it is. So it says it's from Angela's Bakery, and it comes with our order confirmation number, the order date, the order we made, and the place it'll be shipped to. So now going back over here, if we go to our admin panel, we can see that that order we just made is now listed here. So this makes it really easy for the owner of the website to manage the orders and delete them once they're complete. And it has all the information for contacting the user or customer. And then also on the admin panel, we have the choice to manage. And this was really important to me. I wanted to make it so my client wouldn't have to actually come to me if she wanted to add products or remove products from her menu. So this makes it really easy to just do that. So if we go over here, we can grab, this link. We can paste it there. And it was brownies, so we'll put that. We'll say $20, and we'll put it into the special category. So then we can add that. And now if we go on over to our menu, we can see that brownies are now listed, and we're able to add those to our cart. And of course, if we don't want those, we're able to now remove it from our products. So now going back to my presentation, I'm just going to briefly go over what I learned. So I learned a lot about confidence in this project. There were a lot of technologies I had never used or I hadn't really known about. And so having to work with those, 9 times out of 10, it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Also, comfortability with a back-end development. So I had experience developing in the back end, but I never felt super comfortable with it. So having to do this project completely on my own forced me to learn everything, and it was really beneficial. User authentication with OAuth. I've done my own user authentication before with salting and hashing my own passwords, but so I thought using OAuth would give me a good stretch of my knowledge, and it would be beneficial for the future because it is a pretty popular thing. Also, trigonometry and other math as well. For the cake part, like I said, I used sine and cosine and all of those kind of functions for creating the cake and placing the decorations in the right spot and making it so it would all layer correctly. And of course, learning from my mistakes. I mean, everyone knows when you're working on a project that you don't always do everything right. So I think it was really great to, like I said, do this all on my own because there's a lot of things that I did wrong, but then I later learned, and now I have fixed those prior mistakes in current projects. So thank you, that's my project. Questions?
Yeah, one on your custom cake portion, right, where you're designing the cake, how a lot of the parameters on there, I can imagine, would change pretty frequently. Like I noticed pricing, right? Pricing might change, width or tiers, or how did you make it configurable? Is it data driven? Or is it all in the code?
It's all in the code right now. That is a good point, though, to make it changeable. Right now, like I said, it's just being affected by the number of tiers, and I've hard-coded all that data. But yeah, I was looking at prices online for like wedding cakes, because this is actually the size of a wedding cake. It might look a little bit smaller, but yeah, so I tried to go off of actual prices. But yeah, it would be a good thing to add to make it so the owner could actually change that.
How does Angela's bakery feel about this?
Oh, she likes it.
That's the most important part.
Yes.
First of all, great project. My question is, you're obviously building a website with this.
Yes.
Did you give any thought when you're doing it to build it in a way that you could reuse different parts of it to build, or make a tool to build websites for other consumers?
Well, I figure, so Angela's Bakery is actually a lot smaller, so this tool was more for technological depth in my project. So it might not actually apply to her, but it could definitely be something that's easily used on other websites. So yes.
Thank you.
Well done. Great job. Thank you very much, Sophie. I can say from personal experience, I have a 5-year-old girl that's getting ready to turn 6, and ordering a custom cake is way more difficult than I ever thought it would be. That shouldn't be a difficult task, but it really is. Well done, Sophie. I enjoyed that. Our last presenter today is going to be Barrett. He's going to take us through his presentation. So we'll turn the time to him and let him dazzle us and take us home.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Barrett Woods, and I'm part of the web degree. So here for you all today, I have a project that I worked on for 10 weeks, and it's MCraft tutorials. I'm actually on the wrong page right now, but here's the right page. And it's basically a companion website for a game you might have heard of, Minecraft. And here are my technologies. The basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript. 3JS is where most of my technical depth came from. It's a library for utilizing 3D models, and it helps assist with that. And then AngularJS for front-end framework. Node.js for server-side coding. I'm using MongoDB as my database, Express.js as server-side framework, Handlebars for templating and layout. Handlebars is kind of like Pug. And I'm using Passport.js for user authentication and bcrypt for password encryption. So now we're going to go straight into the project itself. I'm kind of waiting for the page to update. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. All right, so here we have my website. I'm just gonna show you the basics. So on the home page, I'm basically displaying a bunch of tutorials. So you can just scroll through and you can click on a tutorial that a user wants to learn how to build. And then you'll be presented with this page. And here, we basically have a Lego manual-ish setup. So on the side, you'll see the required blocks for the current step. And then you can press next to go to the next step, and you'll see an updated list of items that you need to do to actually complete the step. And you can go back and forward. And there you go. It's kind of 3D printed each layer step by step. Now we're going to go back to the home page. And you might be wondering, how do we actually upload tutorials? Well, we're going to log in real quick. And once you log in, you'll be greeted with a Create a Tutorial button. And here you can set the size. And you could set the base block of the project that you're going to be working on. We'll make it snow. And here is the actual building application. This is where most of the technical depth went into. So as you can see, you can actually see a transparent block to let you know where your block is going to be placed. So let's get a bookshelf. As you can see, you can just tap where to place the block, and it'll be placed. Near the bottom, you'll see a hotbar-like arrangement. You can actually bring an item down here and bring your favorite items down there so you can easily access them. Also, there's rotation, but there's also rotation of individual blocks, too. And you can zoom in and out, and you can actually delete blocks, too. And we're going to submit this as test. And as you can see, there's our build. We're going to go to our profile real quick. And these are all of this account's current builds. So we can actually edit and delete each of these. We're going to edit. And as you can see, we have our build here. We just add more features to it and submit. Another cool feature is once we're actually in the tutorial, there's actually a grid toggle in the corner. This was actually a user suggestion. See, one of my users had a little bit of trouble counting how many blocks are in a row. So he suggested a grid system. Here we go. So now you can actually count each block pretty easily. I thought it was a great idea, so I implemented it that night. And there's also a search button. It searches both names and the blocks in the build. So for example, if you search for snow, then you'll get blocks with snow in it. I plan on a future implementation to have a scroll down so you can decide whether you want to search by name or by block. And in the future, I plan to do a lot of things. I would love to add redstone mechanics. So you can actually build redstone implementations within these builds and then show other people how to do the redstone. I also would like to make it so you could actually import builds from Minecraft itself or import builds from this website to Minecraft. That would require a lot more weeks though, but it would be really fun though. And thanks. Any questions?
Yeah. So I see you chose Mongo.
Mm-hmm.
So why Mongo?
Well, I wanted to actually experiment more with Mongo, and that's why I chose it, to get more experience. Because I mostly have experience with relational databases right now, such as SQL. And I think it worked really well. It allows me to pull in data pretty quickly.
Okay. And then maybe, do you have I don't know if you've got a file or something, but can you show the actual data format of your tutorial structure, right? The data structure of the, do you have something like that?
I don't have a way to show it right now, but I can describe it. So I'm saving each individual layer and then all the blocks within that layer. And each block has its own Y value, Z value, X value, along with a texture reference.
You'll have part of my ignorance because I haven't played this game before, but I imagine that there's interactions between certain kinds of blocks that you'll explode if...
I can show an example. So for example, there's fences. So when you first put a fence down, it'll just be a post, but it actually dynamically connects if you have more than one fence within a similar range.
And if I was extremely lazy and I just wanted this software to create this in the game for me, is there future plans for...
Yes, there's definitely a future plan for that. And I would love to do that. That was actually an idea that Beatty himself gave to me. And I would be excited to do that. I was super nervous.
All right, let's give one more hand to our presenters. They all acquitted themselves very well. Great job, you guys. As I said at the beginning, it's just really exciting. Now you can see each of them had a very unique story. You can see their personalities coming forth, their personal passions, and it's just really exciting to see. All right, we've reached that time of the get-together, so I'm going to invite the panel now to huddle up, and you guys are going to select who you feel is the best project based on your criteria that you're looking at. And so while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and invite the presenters to come on up on the stage. You can clap for them again if you want. Come on over this way, guys. Get out there and let everybody see your beautiful faces. So we actually put together a little gift bag for each of the presenters for taking the time, the extra effort to do this for us. So we'll have something for them. And while we're doing that, we'll go ahead, let's open it up now. If there are questions from the audience, you're welcome to shout them at us and we'll try and get them. I will repeat your questions into the microphone for those on our live stream. So it's not that we think that you can't intelligently put together a question. It's just we want to make sure the live stream hears it as well.
Question for Ryan. Do you have any marketing plans for your 3D modeling tool to sell it to IKEA or
Well, yeah, so I wanted to mainly target it towards IKEA or any other large furniture store because I think that they could save a lot of money and a lot of space by having some sort of virtual showroom, and then that way, like IKEA has a huge warehouse and people get tired just walking all the way through the entire thing. So if you had an ability just at the very front have a station in which they can throw all of their models in there and then they can have pre-stage areas that their customers can just walk through, I feel like it'll save them a lot of money and it will make IKEA more popular.
So that question, for those that couldn't hear it or the live stream, was to take this technology and sell it to companies and allow them to use it. So, great. Next question.
Yes, this is for Ryan also. Do you have it, or are you going to implement it for actual like width, height, and length for placements of objects and actual blueprints for, like, if someone actually wants to build their house based off of your models, for it to be properly placed?
So, do you mean like having your own custom room? Is that what you're trying to say?
That too, and for actually building the foundation of your house in a way.
So what would be nice to implement is a grid system that shows you for every, like for the like a dotted line on the ground that shows you this represents like a foot in the room itself. And yeah, as I work on this further, I would like to make it so that way you could create your own room with a floor plan. And then you could even have the ability to put in your own models that you know are a certain dimension, and then just throw it into my Capstone and be able to see that relation between if it'll fit in your house or not.
Okay. And the second thing is for stairs on the second floor. I only saw from the rooms there was only one floor.
Yeah. So if you were to, that would take a lot of weeks, to develop. Currently, the floor plan creator that I have in my head, you'd probably be able to switch what floor you're actually drawing on, so that way you could have multiple floors as long as you designate an area that stairs actually will connect it to. So that would definitely be something I would like to implement in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Woods, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Does your thing support the ability to actually use torches on walls and whatnot?
Not yet, actually. But that will be implemented very soon. Thank you.
So for Justin, so with your model variation, does it allow you to dedicate an area to be spines on this model, or this area, and would it develop that area with spines or without spines and with varying lengths, or do you have to have a feature in place to vary?
A planned feature at a later time would be to add and remove geometry. As of currently, you can, if the spikes exist, size them however you want. And your selection, actually, I don't think I got to demo this. The selection is not limited to the rectangle. You can shift select to make multiple selections to select any joint thing so that you can create an arbitrary group and you can remove from it if you make an error and all that.
So this one is for Ben. For Ivory, do you plan on implementing other instruments that could use things like that to practice with, like guitars, drums?
Yeah, so this was actually brought up to me by someone in the panel when I first demonstrated Ivory. It would require a lot of UI change because obviously you could tell this was built for piano, but the MIDI capabilities are instrument abstracted out. So basically you could use what's called a sound font, and you don't have to play a song with piano. You could play the same exact song with the same exact notes through a guitar or something like that. So that's totally something I could do. It's not my highest priority, but it's definitely something that I've heard feedback from and would contribute to make an option for. So.
Yes, she's seen it and she loves it. It will be eventually, just not yet, but yeah. Yeah, I think, so right now all the products are just kind of placeholders. So I need to get like the actual products she wants to sell on there with the proper descriptions and everything. But once that's done, it can totally go live. So.
All right, thank you very much. That'll be all for questions for right now. Now, I do want to say, those of you that have questions, these guys have worked really hard. They'd be happy to continue answering questions, so if you guys want to hang after. Or we'd also invite anybody that wants to come around the corner. Our school's on 143 South Main. Come on over. We'd be happy to host you, and we can talk about these projects or any other questions that have come up. So, now, here we go. Let's start with our alumni panel. Go ahead and send somebody up, and you can explain who you selected and why.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we chose the one that has maybe the most cool factor, but just the sheer amount of tech and work that that we thought went into this one out in the end. So we chose Homestead. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Well done. All right, now let's go ahead and have whoever's going to be the spokesperson for the professionals. Not that the alumni aren't also professional, because you are.
So you guys should know that we debated heavily. It was neck and neck for so many of you, and I'm so impressed. And although I work for a tech company, you guys just blew me out of the water. You know way more than I do. You're amazing. If we were to buy one of these today, and again, we're so split, we would choose Ivory. So Benjamin, congratulations. Thank you so much. You did amazing. You were just so right there, and I voted for you.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you. Let's do one last round of applause for both the panels. Thank you for taking your time. We appreciate you very much. And then one last round of applause for the presenters. Nicely done. All right, thank you everyone for being here. That will conclude our time together. Have a great day, and if you have questions, please stick around.